zone out and instill fear into Burmese ghouls. The pressure, they were like, I don't care about that dragon in the sky, bring it at me. Utilize that Violet Requiem to set him up, and then not only utilizing that spatial migration to come in and hit the retreat on the turtle was just crazy from the side of Burmese ghouls.
For Twisted Minds, once again, in this a position where they're finding themselves economically falling behind, right? This is tough. Big item pickups here, too, for Burmese ghouls. Berserker's Fury there. And also to deal with some of the sustainability for Twisted Minds already with the halberd. So they're still going to be working on it. The resources are also going to be taken through here. Burmese ghouls, when they have the lead, this is what they like to do, right? They like to continuously put the pressure here. Pay attention to Blink. A lot of the times he's going to be doing exactly what he has to with this Grok pick, and he will be decisive enough to use that wild charge when he needs to. There's the jump in, though. Maro could be in trouble if they commit further. He's quite tanky himself, so right now, nothing but it's Twisted Minds holding on to the pressure. Conceal play going to be used. Blink's still there, providing the vision with this Grok. Turret's going to fall, though. Tier 2 in the bottom lane. And there's nothing right now that Twisted Minds can do. Turtle's going to spawn, though.
Yeah, I mean, Twisted Minds, they attempted to do what I was saying earlier on. Keep that passive play in mind. And try to secure some of the neutral objectives, but I do think they have lost, they kind of tunnel vision into that aspect and trying to figure out how to counter the aggressiveness of Burmese ghouls is the play here for Twisted Minds. They're being pushed back against that wall once again, being forced to mount up defenses. I like their play right here. They're tempted to try to take something. If they can't get the turtle, maybe we can take a tower. Oh, they might be able to get a pick here in the bottom lane.
Well, still going to be working on it. That's Delar going to be in trouble. Flickers out, though. He's able to survive. The 1-2. Delar survives despite a full-on focus, plus the turtle taken for Burmese ghouls.
That, man, I thought they were going to get a pick and a turret, but we do see Burmese ghouls clapping back.
Clapping back they do. They get a kill. They're happy about Burmese ghouls furthering the lead they had. Malefic Roar picked up by Stitch. The damage department's gonna hurt here. And right now, Twisted Minds backs completely against the wall under the 10-minute mark. It's a looking dire here. Still, Maro gonna jump in. I'm offended. Still, the wild charge comes through too. It's a mega kill already for Nico. And Twisted Minds down the roamer, trying to hold on to these shields the best they can on these last turrets into the base.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta give it up to Nico there. We see Maro trying to come in to get a great I'm offended set, and then Nico's like, hold up, I'm offended that you just tried to offend me. And then pulled back the clap there, and that just allowed Burmese ghouls to just keep scaling. The economic lead is definitely in the favor of Burmese ghouls and Twisted Minds. What I think they're really lacking compared to last game is I don't know if they have that defense that they can mount.
Oh, once again, conceal play going to be used. Mike going to be the focus. Still surviving for now. Wild charge goes through. Blink gets the kill. What a play. Now Maro going to be in trouble. Goes in. Another flicker as Maro falls 2 down under the turret of Twisted Minds. Still, Burmese ghouls unrelentless here as they assault parts of the base. Still working on the turrets, though. Twisted Minds, what can they do? Trying to hold on here. 10,000 gold behind. Turret's going to be worked on. Delar in position. The 1-2 punch. It is deadly, but they're going to get the turret. They're happy with it. Might get the mid as well.
Yeah, I think they're going to take as much as they possibly can here just before they back off and take the Lord. Are they going to actually... So they're not even worried about the Lord. They're like, go ahead and go solo that Saksa. We'll keep them at bay. Keep them pressed against the wall. Maybe take another turret here. And Twisted Mind is trying to find a lead somewhere that they can stop Burmese ghouls' pressure, and I think it's just tough, right? I feel like the Cuffin is going to have to utilize that Frigid Glacier to do something. The Black Dragon also could be utilized to mount up a defense. Again, this is only the first Lord, so it's not enhanced, but Twisted Minds is wide open at this point. They're going to have to.
Gee, you know what is enhanced now?
Burmese ghouls.
I think anybody can answer that right now. I mean, with this lead, man, it is deadly. And it's the same thing happened to the previous game. And even more enhances Delar. Malefic Roar just picked up. Pressure going to be here. They're holding on to this bottom turret. Yeah, it's the first Lord. But at this point, when you have this kind of lead, man, it's tough to deal with, right? Burmese Ghouls completely controlling this pace just like they did in the previous game. So now going to be working for it. Lord in the mid lane. Twisted Minds, the work cut out for them. They have to pull out some kind of miracle here if they could stay into it. Dragon Form going to be popped. Delar on the bat side might be looking for his own entry point. They're going to try to hold on the best they can. Clear the waves out.
Keep an eye on
Turret's going to be worked on. Going to be going. Saxon could be in trouble. Goes in. Wild Charge. Not going to find the connection they're looking for. Delar waiting patiently on the backside. Looking for his own entry point. Goes in with a 1-2 punch. Gets a couple off. Has to flicker out though. Lord finally to get worked on. Taken down by Twisted Mind. Still holding on. Morrow though goes in with the I'm offended. There's the glacier they're looking for. But they lose a couple bodies in the making. Cuffin's next. Passive going to be popping, he's going to go down. Now Burmese Ghouls looking to take Twisted Minds out. Still working on the base, but they want to get Mike. They take him out, and now it's only Sano. Base going to be worked on, and Burmese Ghouls will sweep the series 2-0, sending Twisted Minds out.
Sending Twisted Minds home. Burmese Ghouls showing that they are fierce competition in the digital games of the future. Wow.
Wow.
Sweaty hands from my side.
My goodness, dude. That was an enhanced gameplay right there, dude. Like, I mean, that was scary because, like you mentioned, that was the first Lord, man. That was the first Lord. And when you have that kind of lead, what can you do, right? It's rough. It's rough to deal with there.
Yeah, it just Twisted Minds didn't have that defense that they built a wall in the first game, the first series. Coming into the second series, they just didn't have that wall to be able to stop that aggression. And we've seen a couple big plays come off by Twisted Minds. They were grasping for air and trying to keep at bay. And I'm pretty sure we'll see some of the highlights coming here. We can see some of the teams, what's going down here, the disappointment from the side of Twisted Minds, if I'm not mistaken. And that, again, it just goes to show the grit and the tenacity that Burmese Ghouls has brought to the Land of Dawn.
As is competition, man, right? At some point, someone has to go home, right? Someone has to go home, someone has to go forward. You can always look at it this way, again, for Twisted Minds. There's a lot that they can look at this and point things out before these players, before they proceed on for the rest of the year, right? I mean, they got to this point, they got to the playoffs. Both these teams, though, gee, we talked about this, man. As we take a look at the highlights here, we talked about the fact that how the experience was for these two individual teams in the group stage, right? I mean, it was some dicey games that they had, and honestly, I was expecting a 3-game series here, like based off what we saw in the group stages. But there was something about Burmese Ghouls today where it's like, and you pointed this out, I don't know if it was a stage or like the setup that they're going through or what, maybe what they learned from the group stages and everything. But man, like this is a Burmese Ghouls came out hardcore swinging, man. I don't know what they did, but there was not very many weak points in their play today.
No, and I think that just goes to show that they just didn't make mistakes, and then they took advantage of the mistakes that Twisted Minds they did, you know. And I think the turning point was the second turtle when they were trying to utilize that Black Dragon to secure the area, and it worked against them, to be honest. Burmese Ghouls set a trap, put Twisted Minds in that trap, and then took everything from there. And we can kind of see that they just kept trying to, you know, bait Twisted Minds out. They were able to utilize the Valentina very well. We can see that Nico was 4-1-1. It was just, it was a tough game for Twisted Minds. And I think it ultimately, I mean, from my side of the, you know, being an NA and everything, North America doesn't have on-stage experience. And I feel like that's kind of fallen into Twisted Minds at this point. This was like, I want to say, their biggest stage that they walked on. Could that have been a playing factor? Maybe.
Yeah, and speaking of that, like, I don't know, it's kind of poetic. Like, again, against them, their minds just seem literally twisted in this series. I don't know what it was, but they weren't able to pull off what they needed to do from start to finish in both games, and again, MVP here, Stitch on Bruno pick, but really, like, for me personally, this game itself, Delar had an amazing game from, what we kind of saw in game one, where he struggled just a little bit, right? I mean, there was a little bit of struggle there, but for this game, like, he was on point with the Paquito, and it allowed Stitch to do what he needed to do on a Bruno. When you are a gold laner and you can have that gold lane experience, like I like to call it, right? Like, you can just farm up, you can just knock turrets down. Bruno, by the way, is like one of the best like turret destroyers out there for marksman picks, right? But then you get to scale up really well because of your team pulling things off from start to finish, and then you get to shine really later on, and that's really what allows some of these gold laners to really shine. And as you take a look here at the stats, like, you can see how crazy it was for them.
Oh, definitely. And I think that building off of what you were saying, Stitch, he was just in his golden state. He was, again, it just seemed like Delar showed so much pressure against Mike up there that it forced Morrow to have to rotate up and help the EXP lane, and that just allowed Stitch to just further advance, right? And I feel like that's where the Bruno goes. He is a particular tactile hero, but put into the right hands is an absolute menace in the land of Dawn. And Twisted Minds, they just kind of fell into it, and it's bittersweet. It's bittersweet. It's a great experience for them, right? I mean, this was a big tournament stage. I like it, and if there's anything that they take from this experience, it's just the experience itself, right? The digital, the physical and the digital world now coming together, and that's where you get your experience from, right? And I like it, and I feel like they tried their best being on that stage, but I think Burmese Schools, again, kind of going off of what you were talking earlier, is that they just had Group A was tough for Burmese Schools, right? And they held their own. They held their owns in that, and I mean, even though they were third there, still goes to show that they brought the grit.
It's, again, the way they can look at it is they made it I know it's day one of the playoffs. They made it here. They got through the group stages. There's a lot that they can break down and learn from this, for the most part. And they still get to kind of celebrate the fact that they got to experience this whole thing for the games of the future, because like we saw in that video before this, man, it's way bigger than just MLBB, right? There's the stage, again, guys, if you guys are watching online, you gotta rewind and go see the stage as a whole, or if you catch the games, of course, later. We still have 3 matches left today ahead of us, and I believe from what we saw from the first one, all the teams are going to be like having an official walkout, right? So I'm just assuming out there, they've got their official casters doing like the cool walkout announcements that we're used to doing, right? But it looks great, man. Like, it looks amazing. And for Twisted Minds, like, again, they got to this point. They got to be proud of that at least, and there's a lot that they can learn from these 2 games, because whatever happened here, man, Burmese Schools just came out on point and exactly what they had to do. I didn't see specifically really like a weak point from Burmese Schools in this series, at least, so they at least did the homework here against Twisted Minds on exactly how they kind of had to deal with that. So, while we wait up, I think we're going to be waiting up for next matchup here. Of course, again, congratulations to Burmese Schools for getting that sweep. Very decisive. Now, we are going to be taking a look at a video here once again as we are currently waiting for the second matchup of the day. This, I believe, is a challenge amongst the players. So I'm really curious on what happened here. I've seen some of the videos and they look great. So let's take a look at this video before we get prepped and ready for the second match.
So I created the challenge to play the game using only one hand. So let's go find out how they're gonna play this game. I want you to play this game by only one hand.
Oh my God.
Okay, I'll try.
Let's try this.
Is it hard?
Yes.
But it's interesting, right?
Yeah.
It's like a special warm-up for your fingers. Wow. Wow, he's really seems like a Spider-Man. Is your nickname Spider-Man?
No. Oh my God.
I'm picking Selena. This is my best hero.
Is it hard to use her by one hand?
Yes.
Why did you choose the Brody?
Strong.
Like you? Yeah, you are strong?
No.
Why not? Look at you.
Should I finish the game?
Yeah, I made one kill.
Oh, okay, I'm dead. Yeah, we're dead.
Oh my god.
As goal laners, if we die, it's always a good trade.
Can you put the phone on the table? You are using your hand here, and you are helping him with another hand. No, your hand, yeah. Working together. Look how guys negotiate between each other. So they communicate. So every teammate can understand each other what to do. So this is showing us that they are real professional MLBB players.
Great to see there. Once again, some interactions there with the players and of course the host over there for the Games of the Future. Now, G, could you do that? Could you actually play with one hand?
Well, so since I play with an iPad, I think that would be even harder. When I'm streaming and creating my content, like, oh man, like my hand, I don't know if it. I think you got bigger hands than I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do
I've never
think
tried.
I think if we were, just like the NACT, if we were in a room together again and a group of people and we had to do it up, I think I could do it up with you.
Why do you have to say it like that? If we were in a room together again, hey, just disclaimer: the room was full. By the way, we had a ton of people in the room. So you know what's funny though is when we were in that room, specifically out there, it was packed. And everybody was playing Mobile Legends. I mean, like,
it was great.
You think you're gonna be in like Vegas to go and like do all this stuff, right, with all these people, and then everybody ends up in a room playing ML together, right? So that's what happened. Now, and it's crazy because so there are players out there, by the way, that can compete and play with one hand, like they're able to be able to pull that off and everything. And I think I respect, and I think. I can't remember which tournament it was, but I think they had like a 1v1 with I can't call the name, but it was one of the players that played with one hand. He played the Fanny, and I think he played, if I remember right, he played against like Carl Teasy or something like that, and he was a threat, man. Like with one hand, the Fanny play style was on point, right? So fun little challenge there that we got to see and witness with the players, of course. Now. Ahead of us, and I believe we can go ahead and kind of talk about this while we wait for them to get associated and everything, is the next matchup will be, I believe it's DEUS VULT and Homebois for our second match of the day here, G. And I'm going to ask you, pick your brain here, because I believe you casted some of their games in the group stage, right?
I did. Homebois was looking good. I don't think I got to see DEUS VULT at all, so I want to kind of see what they're going to be bringing to the playing field. But again, just kind of building off of what you were stating to me earlier, they were in Group Stage A. They versed Burmese schools, right? So, and they actually came in second place in Group A. So if I had to say anything, it does seem like DEUS VULT is definitely a little bit on the higher tier aspect because Group A was so hard. It was tough. The tenacity that group brought was intense. Now, Homebois, don't count them out. I mean, they had to go against the champions, AP Brim, right? So not only was Group A hard, Group B also had the champions of M5 in there. So again, both teams are going to be going at it. And I think, to be honest, from my opinion, I kind of want to see DEUS VULT, do a little bit of a caster prediction in this tournament. We weren't ever asked that. And, for right now, I think that's where we're going to be standing.
And for me specifically, when you're looking at these groups, and at the same time, of course, DEUS VULT, I think if you look back at M5, a lot of people kind of woke up to how strong those players were. The team was, the region is rising, and everybody. We know who everybody loved, on social media, right? The personality of that team, Kid Bomba, he really did a lot. I got a chance to talk to him as well, and great guy, and just, I think, their experience was very crucial to their development. I mean, they were already good when they came into, to M5. It's a lot of people were surprised, and in a way, I think, for a lot of people, they kind of developed into this dark horse, and then they really surprised a lot of people, and they got really far than what most people who don't have eyes on some of these other regions, right? This could be said for even NACT for the longest time, until we saw BTK back then really put, let's be honest, really put NACT on a lot of people's maps. It's very reminiscent of that, G. And that's why I think it's been great to watch how this team has developed. Homebois as well. Homebois was a team that really rose through these ranks in a very competitive region in itself, and it was a team that really kind of upset, in a way, the standard of what a lot of people were seeing from that region. And then they kind of made a name for themselves, and some of the individual players there too, from what I understood from different interviews too, they were saying some of them would be done, possibly retiring or something like that. So as they kind of work on Homeboy specifically, and how this team, the synergy has been worked on, because we always have to talk about synergy when you're talking about these teams, right? It's obviously a team game. Yeah, you can have the most skilled player out there, but really, can you actually carry an entire game or a series? You know what I mean? That's something here. So I think if you're specifically talking about DEUS VULT, and of course for Homebois, on what is going to separate them, we had the same conversation of the previous series, man, play style. So specifically, since you have watched, or you have casted, the DEUS VULT games, did you see something very specific to you from what you saw from the group stages that kind of should set them apart against Homebois?
I would say that they bring a very tactile stance to their gameplays, right? They get very tactical, and I think that's what Homebois is going to have to watch out for, right? And once we get into some of those games, and you'll see that, right? And in the current meta right now, the jungle's been kind of reduced to a smaller area, and team fights are key. So having that tactical approach to situations is what I think, DEUS VULT brings to the playing field. Now for Homebois, again, I think they have quite experience being into the MLBB scene. But the aspect that you built off of, man, is that, you can't count out regions, right? The regions, they'll show you that they're coming to fight. And I think that's what DEUS VULT has done. And I think because their tactile approach on team fights is what sets them apart from other teams. I haven't seen too much of Homebois, and they're from Malaysia, so you might be a little bit more familiar with them than I am. What's their approach?
Thank you, guys.
Man, when you look at,
thank you,
I guess when you really point out the playstyle, or the environment that the Malaysian teams are in, they have there's a word for it, the Lungar strategy. It's it was established over there, and not all the teams play like this, right? Specifically.
Mobile Legends Games of the Future. Siapa yang kalah akan tereliminasi malam ini, guys.
Looks like we might have lost Naisu at this point. He was kind of building off upon what Homebois kind of brings to the playing field here. And again, just kind of building onto that, right? Is that these two teams are going to be going at it. I believe again that Group A was a really tough go. There was a lot of heavy hitters in Group A, but also Group B has some heavy hitters. And I think Naisu was kind of building upon that. Homebois brings, styles that are a little bit different to the playing field. It's ever changing in MLBB, and I think it's anybody's game at this point. Though I do think some regions are a little bit stronger, and kind of building upon what Naisu said earlier is that just the dark horse, DEUS VULT, into M5 was huge, right? And it's one of those aspects that you'll have to keep an eye on, is that is Homebois prepared? Are they prepared to, have they done their research to take down Homebois, right? Or to take down DEUS VULT? Either or, both teams are going to be going at it. Hopefully we'll get Naisu on at some point. Hey, oh my!
We're back. I was in this full spiel, man. I was in a full spiel.
I know. You were just going at it, and then I was like,
I was in a full spiel, and then you just you stopped, and I was like, there goes everything I was saying about the Malaysian region. So,
well, you're back. Hey, how do you think about it?
Well, let me just say I didn't catch anything you were saying because I was stuck in time there. Nathan took me. Yeah, Nathan took me for a ride, but going back, I guess while we're waiting for the teams to kind of get ready, again, for everybody waiting online, there's an actual, of course, stage now. The teams are, of course, walking out and getting prepared, and I'm sure they have their schedules and everything, so you have to join us in as we dive into some of this stuff. So make sure you guys grab, stay hydrated, get your snacks and everything while we wait for the second matchup. But what I was saying was that Malaysia is known for a specific play style, and and I was relating it to what I was saying about Burmese ghouls, man. Burmese ghouls, very aggressive. Malaysia also kind of to be known to be pretty aggressive in their approach to these games, but I feel like it has adapted, because for the longest time, and even asking and talking to some of the casters, the fellow casters from Malaysia, they'll say yeah, they're happy that they get to be in all these tournaments and stuff, but they want to win, man. They want to, they're tired of getting these third, fourth, fifth places or whatever it is, right? And so that had to basically, for all these teams that want to do that, it has to change your play style has to change. It has to adapt. You still have your personality as a team, as a region, but you really have to adapt to what these rest of these teams that have been winning these championships are doing. And I think Malaysia has been doing that. And Homebois, what I love about them is their flexibility. Now, we talked about this specifically in the previous game, where I was like, how flexible do you want to be in a best of 3 single elimination? It's kind of scary, because if that's your personality and that's what you're known for, it's tough, because you have to pull it off even in game one, and what really sticks out for me when you're talking about Homebois, to get to the specifics here, man, is their roam, Zorn. He's usually a great playmaker for the team, right? He's able to pull some of those stuff off, but yeah, you're going against across from him from DEUS VULT, right? We saw great things from Salo, where everyone's like,
thank you,
whoa, when we were thinking about the Diggy, right? That was so much damage, or whatever they were saying back then, the puns with that, right? It was intense, and I think one of the things too that really kind of changes the dynamic of Homebois here, and we'll see kind of unfold when we actually get to the games, is again, what's the impact of nets? Nets in the gold lane. Is he actually able to shine and play? Because this guy, man, he over in the Philippines, he was very known for even some of that backdoor pressure, those backdoor plays. Now we're going to be taking a look here real quick into the roster, as we've talked about this. Again, Kid Bomba, Sawo, Hiko, Sunset Lover, Magister. These guys made waves, right? I know we're missing one guy there that we saw from M5 specifically, but these guys made waves for everybody, and they really put the region on the map from M5. G, and you know, you watched a lot of that, and again, I think you kind of pointed out, you made great points specifically for them. But real quick, take us through. I believe this is going to be. Well, just a second, we're going to see the roster also for Homebois. For those that haven't watched these past couple of days, because like I said, you know, I've seen Homebois quite a bit, but I think my biggest question mark, G, is really how does this work now, where you are in the playoffs, single elimination, you best of 3, you've got a little bit of variation here, but. Before that, take us through the picks and bans.
Yeah, we can kind of see some of Homebois' picks and bans here. We can see that they're familiar with the Valentina, the Gwen, the Export, the Hera. The Heck is also a pick that I think you guys are going to want to keep an eye out for, because Homebois did utilize the Hera pretty well. And then you can see some of their bans, you know, getting rid of the Faramus, getting rid of the Valentina. Again, you were saying the Diggy. The Diggy was playing a big aspect of DEUS VULT, so we could possibly be seeing the Diggy bans coming out by them. And that just goes to show that it's kind of like a respect. And again, building off of what you were saying, Homebois. Their versatility, their flexibility. Is this the time that they should bring that, right? It could be the challenging factor that DEUS VULT has, though, right? Because I feel like that's when I was at M4, Malaysia just pulled out crazy plays. They kept you on the edge of your seat. You never knew what they were going to bring at you and throw at you. And I think that's what DEUS VULT is going to have to keep an eye out for. Are those crazy plays going to be what changes the tides? You know? And I think Homebois, they're great at what they do, and it would be nice to kind of see Malaysia, you know, get one on something.
Well, I think they have the tools that they need, right? I mean, both these teams do.
Thank you bang yang udah bergabung di channel gua. Terima kasih banyak bang.
Talked about much, and which a lot of people paid attention to, especially through
siapapun kalian,
was XP lane, right? Like, I still think that currently, I know our meta is slowly.
Untuk yang belum subscribe, tolong guys di subscribe, guys, sangat membantu sekali. Thank you very much. Kalau berkenan, kalau berminat.
Is a great impactful lane until now, you know, and a lot of the times, like even what we saw earlier, you know, we still see a lot of the Lapu Lapus, a lot of the Paquitos. Yeah, there's some variation there now too, but I think that's where we really have to keep an eye on. Like, and Homebois has to be able to control Kid Bomba. A lot of the teams that worked against DEUS VULT in their previous tournaments, you know, that's what they did. They really tried to kind of shut down the XP lane where Kid Bomba was struggling to make those plays, make those impactful moments happen. You know, and a lot of times it was on the Lapu Lapu. Like, he did great things there. And if you take it back from the previous series, like Delar in the first game wasn't able to pull those things off on the Lapu Lapu, right? I mean, sometimes you land, you know, the stuns, or you kind of go in with the flicker, plays the bravest fighters and everything else. But Kid Bomba was specifically one of those players that stood out, you know, that stood out there. And I think, again, XP lane, we're going to have to pay attention to this, but also gold lane, right? Out the gold lane, nets being that factor, how does that kind of fall into place? What kind of approach do they take? And I'm thinking even what we saw earlier from Stitch, like Bruno is probably going to be a big pick for Homebois if they want to go that route. But seeing Nets specifically and knowing how he's kind of played over the past year and whatnot, you don't want to leave him alone. So I think if you're DEUS VULT, you really need to put pressure in that gold lane if you can against Nets, because he has a tendency, man, to like and again, I don't know what he's doing the impact here for Homebois specifically on the calling part of it, but Nets might be the type too to just be like, you know, you guys go do your objective dance, go do your thing, hold it together. I'm gonna go for the backdoor play. I'm gonna go, you know, do my thing. I'm gonna push that side lane so hard that by the time DEUS VULT knows the game's done, I'm here at the base. You know, and that's something that they have to watch out for, because the picks currently are still basically favorable for a gold laner like Nets, is my point, right? So as we kind of contemplate here and theorize like exactly how this is gonna approach, things could change too, man, because group stages, they had like in a way they had that extra chance almost, you know, but now it's like, All right. Again, the best of 3 ahead of them.
Yeah, definitely. And something to kind of just highlight, we're talking about the gold and the EXP lanes, but I think we got to also, highlight some of the other lanes, right? Like DEUS VULT, actually, their mid lane has almost one of the most MVPs set in the Phygital games, right? So that's wild. Right, being so heavy that the current meta is focusing on the gold lane, the roam, being a more tactical jungle, and even roams now have been quite wild. We've seen in the tournament a Terisla roam.
What kind of wild?
We've seen a Terisla roam. We've seen Guinevere, Ruby's out there now. They're just bringing such crazy plays into it. And I think I might have even seen a Hellcourt roam, if I'm not mistaken, in some of these games. It was like you never knew what to expect. So the roam aspect is still there. I think it is a critical role to be played in some of these matches as well. But you can't also forget about the mid lane. The mid lanes kind of shine. And I think right now, Sunset Lover has that, right? The Sunset Lover has been aggressive on the Navaria, even though the hero is more of that peel, that backline peel. I think there's a lot of aspects that the mid lane brings in, a lot of aspects the roam brings in, especially into the Phygital games. The meta's always changing, and I feel like this being the first tournament of the year, 2024, right? The biggest international tournament right now. It just goes to show that this could be the stepping stones, the foundations that these teams are building for tournaments to come.
I think that's a good point. The fact that a lot of this and why I was saying even with Twisted Minds, like they got swept by Burmese Ghouls, but basically the fact is when you take this tournament, you see how things kind of work out. Like this is going to set the pace for the whole year for the most part, right? For a lot of these teams, and they're going to decide what works for them, what doesn't. But with Homebois specifically and DEUS VULT, like we know these are 2 solid teams that have a lot of experience. Yeah, there's some minor changes, here and there in terms of lanes, because really, honestly, man, we can point out every single lane. But ultimately, like we were doing even with Burmese Ghouls, it's like that execution part within the game and how they kind of approach it based on their draft, based on their picks. What do we see from there, and kind of how do they play around that? Because some teams, like we know, even teams like AP Brand, like Onic and everything, they actually hold on to some of their secret stuff, if you will, that they've been planning. And it's funny because even talking to some of the coaches about it, like that's what they do. They wait till this point in the playoffs where they're like, all right, we've been working on something special. Let's see if it happens. And we saw this from even other global tournaments before, that we saw last year, where we saw some of the first Fredrin mids or the Adets come out again, that wasn't paired like a Johnson and stuff like that. And even so far here in Games of the Future, like you said, we've seen very interesting things pop up even in the mid lane, other lanes, side lanes, and everything else. And again, with these 2 teams, these are teams that they have of course like a way that they play, but really, again, variation or flexibility is obviously a point of it. And if we see that in this best of 3, I would love to see it, man. Layla was probably one of the highlights so far this whole tournament. Honestly, for me as a viewer, I wasn't even casting those games, but just being able to see Layla in a big tournament like this was great. And I know there's already been hundreds of clips made, about it and the reactions to it too, and that's what I like to see. And some people will say like, man, some of these teams doing this stuff, like they're trolling. They're not. Like it's actually feasible in the lineup that they have with what they want to accomplish. And that's why even before when like Gord popped up, man, I was like, yeah, it's his time to shine, because in the way the current things are, it's going to work out, And that's why even with the Aurora like rework, even before that, I actually really enjoyed playing, Aurora before the rework. Like I thought it was a very great hero, the way that her kit worked, and now it's even better. It works really well with a lot of the lineups that we're currently seeing in this new meta, I should say. It's not completely new, but it's definitely altered.
I think it's more of like the current meta is like it's like a stepstone into diversity now. Like we're just seeing such diverse heroes coming out. The Layla, by the way, the Layla was RRQ Hoshi versus DEUS VULT, which was wild. The game went 30 minutes, and Layla is definitely that late game hero. Just showed out, and it was quite. To be honest, I was streaming again, like I was saying, I was like my first shift as casting, and then I was like, I'm gonna go live, right? And then the moment I go live, I'm like, hold up, that's a Layla. I was like, what's going on here? And then, dude, my stream was going nuts. And
I was gonna say, how did the stream feel, man?
Oh man, dude, the stream was just going nuts. I think that it just put RRQ like on the board to show that they could just play anything at this point. And it was well executed, and I think that's what brings a lot to these types of tournaments, right? You never know. Being the first one internationally, we're seeing Laylas, we're seeing Hellcurts, we're seeing Lapus, and we're kind of seeing that some of the normal picks that were like in M5 and elsewhere, just they're not as viable, but they're still there, and it comes down to the individual player. Like the individual execution and the synergy between the team comps is where it really shines. And coming forward, I think again we just got to keep an eye on a few of the people in the teams. DEUS VULT's gonna really shine. I mean, they went against RRQ. We might see.
Hello, I'm Z Channel. Hello, hi. How are you?
The winning
Indonesia apa bule nih?
Just a little bit of the spice in the hat.
I know.
Hi, I'm Jet Channel. Hi.
It's like you get to a point where you're kind of just wondering, like, if they did pull out something. I mean, there's so many other heroes.
How are you? Ini orang bule apa orang Indonesia? Are you Indonesian? Foreign?
Personal wish list or?
No, personal wish list would see a Zosk. I was a Supreme Zosk back in the day when I first started MLBB. And he just hasn't shined, and we would always joke that like maybe if a revamp came through and what kind of happened with we were talking about it on my stream, if they would just give Zosk like his minions legs. Could you imagine if you just seen a little alien running around on the land of Dawn?
No. No, we don't need any of that. We don't need any of that. Like, it's funny because I don't know why people don't pick him, right? Because he's probably one of the most annoying heroes that you can lane against. And if you were Supreme, man, I respect you because back when I was playing against them as a Gore, it's like, yeah, these guys are annoying. But I don't know if he would ever actually get maybe. Hey, you know what? I didn't expect Aurora.
They've been pulling everything out of there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, why not? You have to kind of constantly update some of these older heroes and work around it. But it's a good point because that's.
Thank you yang udah. Thank you very much yang join to channel.
It isn't anything.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Literally, like in one of the last NACTs,
that's very useful.
Hennepy just came out of nowhere and was actually dominating teams. And it was just the most unorthodox emblem combination paired with the rework and that anti-CC because it was like a CC meta back then. It was a lot of crowd control happening, and it was just it just took that individual that was just so comfortable with that hero, and then the utilization of the team comps, and I was blown away. I mean, everybody in the NACT.
Salam dari Malaysia. Waalaikumsalam. Halo juga Hakim Gans.
I hope you guys enjoyed us talking about these.
Bagaimana nih perwakilan Malaysia nih, Homebois? Apakah ada peluang untuk lolos nih?
The teams, the players.
Prediksinya gimana kira-kira prediksinya?
The official stage. So if you missed it earlier, now's your time because DEUS VULT's going to be walking on stage here. Amazing stage, by the way, and you'll see it again, a live audience and everything that they have on ground. And there they are, very
Di
familiar.
playoff nih
for the
udah
most
pakai
part, what
udah
we've
mainnya udah di
seen.
state guys ya, nggak di.
Kid Bomba
Jadi
leading
dulu waktu
them,
ketika masih
and,
Mabar grup itu mereka
you
mainnya
gotta
di dalam
love it.
ruangan.
You gotta love it. They're just like, where do we go? Where do we go? You know, and you're gonna see it here in just a second. Like Naisu was saying, the
Jadi di playoff
stage
itu
is
udah mainnya di
just
state.
massive and beautiful. We can see the trophy there as well. And hopefully they don't allow this just massive stage to affect them.
Pastinya main di state itu
Yeah,
apa namanya,
I think that's still like a factor that a lot of people think about. But DEUS VULT specifically, I mean, after their recent months, you know, experiencing M5, like I feel like they're fine, and they're used to it, you know. So now we're going to be welcoming Homebois out here once again, a team that is well known up to this point. And we see all the players getting. I love that they have this now. Again, you know, for playoffs and getting out there. I could only wish that we could hear the probably like the hype music and of course like their announcers over there welcoming them out.
Yes.
Nets.
Aksa
And,
sebagai Aksa nggak salah
we'll see
coachnya.
exactly what Homebois can do in this matchup.
Hey, I mean, you can already tell them. They're telling you to shush because they got this.
Aksa itu ininya ya.
Homeboy is coming out of the stage right
Coachnya.
now.
They know right where to
They
go,
look
G.
pumped.
Oke, channel ya, kita doakan semua
lost on
mereka
this
menang.
stage. They're like, we've done this multiple times. Just send us to where we gotta go.
Prediksi gimana?
I think even
Prediksi
it seems
menang
like
nggak?
DEUS VULT didn't even go to the trophy
Harusnya
yet,
sih
you know.
kemungkinan
So
untuk menang ada
it's kind
pasti.
of just
They don't want-
some
They've
aspects
seen it
here.
before, man. Yeah.
MJ channel.
That's new exactly where to go. He's like, I got this.
Ada.
Follow me.
So again, we'll see, right? I guess me being
Karena kuncinya
from
sih,
the
kalau
Philippines
gua bilang,
region and stuff, I really want to see
tim-tim Rusia ini mereka
how
masih
Nets
mainnya
kind of fits into
barbar
this whole
ya.
picture, right?
Masih main
Because
model-model brawl
we've
gitu.
had
Yeah.
this. We kind of already have like
Jadi
this impression of
harus
Nets
punya
specifically,
strategi
but
khusus ngadepin
Homebois in
pemain-pemain
general,
yang-
like they're a team of very
pemain-pemain yang-
great players, obviously, great
Tim-tim yang
personalities,
masih
great
barbar tuh
flexibility.
harus ada
Love what they've
strategi
done,
khusus sih.
especially at the later part of 2023 and where they've managed to get to. And now with this, once again, being on this stage, again, we talk about prize pool and everything else, but
Thank
just
you
really
yang untuk like-nya, MJ channel. Thank you very
the stakes
much.
here,
Terima
being in
kasih
that best of
semoga
three,
selalu
you have
diberi
to
kesehatan.
kind of automatically win that draft, really.
Keluarga
And that's kind
diberi
of,
kesehatan ya.
I don't know how you feel
Tetap
about this,
rezeki,
G.
guys.
Really digging into the analytics here, but like draft-wise,
Halo Hakim, halo Bang Hakim,
the
halo.
impact of that it can have in a first game of the series, right? In a best of three, if you will, where you don't have much time to adjust. You want to get those picks that you're comfortable with our meta, but at the same time, you kind of lean into possible flexibility with some of these heroes that pop into mind, where you can flex into some of these different lanes. Yeah, maybe you don't put the Fredrin in the jungle. Maybe he's a curveball into the XP lane or mid, if you really feel like going that route, And I think you pointed out it pretty well earlier that, a lot of the roams have been kind of wild too. There's still a lot there, so we'll see if they actually want to do that, because draft when we get to it for game one is going to be very important for the series.
Right, and I think flexibility is the key thing, is that we see a lot of the flexible heroes being picked into the early stage, and that just it's like a mental game, right? Like both teams are like, like I could put this anywhere. Let me see where you think I'm gonna put it, right? And we've seen throughout multiple times that like Brats went to the EXP instead of the jungle. We've seen roams being put to the jungle and then swapped back into the roam position. So I think flexibility is key here. But I also think that as we've seen in the last series that we casted, just doing your research, just knowing what was some of those tide-turning heroes and some of the comps earlier. So hopefully Homebois did their research, did their homework on DEUS VULT, because DEUS VULT did lose a game, right? So they know what heroes
RRQ
what was
besok,
utilized
RRQ
against
besok.
them, be it a Layla,
playoff
but whatevs.
untuk peringkat 2 dan peringkat 3 dalam grup. Karena peringkat
it's
1
still
setiap
wild,
grup
and I
itu
think you gotta,
otomatis
as a
sudah
team, you
masuk
gotta
ke
think
dalam
about that. Last series we seen
perempat final.
that
Jadi
Burmese Wolves, they just completely banned out everything
pimpinan grup
that
itu
pushed AP Brent against the wall,
tinggal nunggu
right?
hasil
They
pertandingan
they
hari
were
ini
not
lawannya
gonna
akan
allow
siapa.
that,
Jadi besok
and that's just teams
AP
doing
Brand,
research.
RRQ, Onic,
The coaches coming into play,
Blacklist
and
itu
then
besok
just
mereka main. Nunggu
the overall
lawan-lawannya
utility
nunggu lawan
that
hasil
they built.
pertandingan hari
And,
ini malam
you
ini.
know, getting into these games, I
Yang
think
kalah malam ini
the two
pulang
teams they're
tereliminasi.
gonna
Yang
show us
menang
something probably
lanjut
good here.
untuk pertandingan
I
besok.
can't wait to see it.
RRQ kemungkinan
this,
RRQ
Because
Yeah.
we, you know, I'm so used to having this, you know, in these tournaments and whatnot, where we have our
kemungkinan
caster
ketemu
predictions.
Burmese Gold atau
What are you
ketemu
thinking for this
pemenang
series? We already saw a
pertandingan hari ini
sweep
nih,
between
yang start
Burmese
nih,
Ghouls
antara
and Twisted
Homebois
Minds. DEUS VULT,
atau
Homebois,
Esport.
everything that we talked about while we wait to jump into the draft for the first game.
Yeah.
Tell me your prediction, GD Iko. Who is winning?
I think it's going to be DEUS VULT's 2-1. I think Homebois are going to pull something. You've already said they have that diverse
semangat.
ability.
Thank you,
The
Hakim Gas.
versatility
Thank you, semangat,
from
ya.
Homebois is there. And I
semangat,
think
ya.
they might throw out a wild pick that
Karena
DEUS VULT
tontonannya
might not
kayak gini.
quite understand. This meta is quite weird
Tontonannya
and
itu kan
wild.
yang
And it can
memacu
catch anybody
adrenalin
off guard.
semangat
So
juga.
what
Jadi
about
kita
you?
ya mau nggak mau harus semangat juga.
Okay, well, I'll
Pasti
tell you in
akan
just a second. We jump into the draft here. Game number 1. We've got DEUS VULT
Terinspirasi
there.
semangatnya
Blue,
nonton
Homebois on the red. We'll see how the draft pans out. So you're going 2-1. You're going 2-1,
I'm 2-1.
DEUS.
Dampak semangatnya
2-1.
itu juga ya.
Okay.
Semoga
If
kalian
you guys
juga
are
pada
watching
semangat
online,
guys.
too, feel free to put your
Semangat,
predictions in the chat
sehat-sehat,
wherever you're watching.
dilancarkan rezeki.
I
Jangan
am
lupa
going to
guys, yang
say
belum
that I
subscribe,
think it's
subscribe,
going to
guys.
be DEUS VULT as well. I
Itu
think
sangat membantu
I
kalian.
hoped that the previous series was a 3-game series. I didn't get it, G. And it's my first
Yeah, I
day of
know.
casting for Games of the
And you were
Future.
like,
So,
Ini draft pick kita lihat guys.
you know, and with this being my last series for the day so far, like I gotta say, I'm hoping for the 3 games, man.
Deus
I'm
udah
saying
nge-ban
2-1 DEUS
Nolan
VULT
udah
as
di-ban.
well. So we'll see if it happens.
Homebois udah nge-ban.
But I want that 3-game series, especially when you're talking about the fact that this is one of these teams' last chances in the tournament. Like one of them has to go home, right? So already, let's take a look now that we have both our predictions. They line up together. Nolan's being taken out. Harith is taken out. Minotaur by Homebois. Once again, this could leave a lot of things on the table that we have seen banned out so far for these teams.
Yeah, Homebois kind of fallen into the you know, their predictable bans that we've seen in the most banned area. They banned out the Metal a lot. They banned out the Fairness a decent amount. And I think DEUS VULT has kind of fallen into that aspect as well. And again, this is just that's the versatility that the teams bring to the field. Though Homebois have never used Nolan at this point, could this be a time that they would have pulled it out? Maybe, right? So it just goes to show that the teams are kind of anticipating something. DEUS VULT building something that they don't want to see these quick dash heroes. And again, I think this falls into the aspect that I was saying is DEUS VULT is more of that the tactile team, right? They're bringing tactics into the Land of Dawn, and they don't want it. Those are heroes that can break your tactics. One person dies, and they have that right there, and that's the burst ability behind assassins. So get them off the playing field.
I think that's a good point where you could start, but since we have interesting bans, I mean, for the most part too, like we have seen a lot of Joy being banned out, Harith, of course, Matilda's and whatnot, but still a lot left on the table here.
Thank you, MJ Channel, thank you, subscribe-nya.
For DEUS VULT, like how do you want to start this draft? Because we were just talking about how important it is to get on that right foot for the best of 3. And this first pick is usually very crucial for a lot of teams, which is still, they could opt for utility and a flex pick to kind of really gauge on exactly what Homebois wants to do with their first options across from them. But again, too, this is they take the CC. Okay, so they're going to go with that. But again, these two teams, by the way, I know it was a little bit different in terms of roster or whatever, but they did play against each other in M5. Obviously, I think they were both in the same group, if I recall right. They were like Group D, or I think they were last group. And Homebois did struggle. Like they did struggle overall in group. By the way, that was the same group as the Ohio brothers, man. So they had a group there. So in a way, it's like, all right, we meet again. What has changed? What has developed aside from a little bit of that roster change? And that's where we see this kind of unfold now in that do or die situation. Homebois is going to pick up the Guinevere and the Claude. This is 2 picks that we see often picked up here in that first phase of the draft.
Yeah, and I think this is good for Homebois, right? The Guinevere is just such a flexible pick in the early stage. Again, like we've been saying nonstop. Like Guinevere can either go roam, can go jungle. It just kind of keeps DEUS VULTs on their toes, And then also Claude. That's great late game security, but my God, the Diggy. Oh God, Homebois, watch out, right? This is gonna be rough. It is the signature. If I'm not mistaken, I was watching a lot of M5, and that Diggy was just wrecking havoc, allowing that into the playing field. And again, it's a great counter to the Guinevere, right? You can get out of a lot of the violent requiems and keep them at bay. You can also shield your whole team to avoid the busy duets. So,
Dua kali ke Malaysia tuh cumannya ke Kuala Lumpur sama.
You know, granted the fact too, whoever moves on from here is gonna have to face against DP. Right, so that's who's waiting for them ahead of them. And again, this is where you want to play your best, obviously your best picks, and this is kind of playing out to be that way. I love that the Diggy was locked in. You can see the answer though from Homebois already to round out that first phase. They pick up the Lancelot, and this is great because really tempo is going to be kind of the name of this game one, it looks like. You know, for the most part, it's like, who's going to have that tempo? Early on in the jungle, probably going to be trying to do that with Homebois' lineup already. But DEUS VULT, they have an answer, they have a great answer to it. And knowing how that so much damage saying came through back from M5 and the Diggy was locked in, I think that's going to be a similar case here, right? Not to mention too, from group stages, Sunset Lover, who for me, even back in M5, was a little bit underrated. Like, he was doing crazy things. So far in group stages, I believe he got 3 MVPs, man, for Games of the Future. Like, the guy has 3 MVP for performances. And that's a little scary when you're thinking about if you're Homebois, right? How? Because we talked about earlier, controlling certain lanes, certain players, and a lot of times people naturally went to Kid Bomba because on social media he was everywhere, and that's why I'm saying like Sunset Lover was kind of low key because the guy, I mean, just looking at his demeanor, even in person, like when you meet him, you know, the way that he is, he's a great guy, but he is a menace in game. And there's a reason why he got those 3 MVPs for so far for the group stage. So I think if you're Homebois, you got to control this, man.
Yeah, and you can kind of see that they're going for that route. DEUS VULT is they're kind of setting Sunset Lover behind the scenes, right, and keeping him towards the end. And I think that is kind of what you were saying. Homebois has to think about that, right? And you can already see that they're targeting jungles mostly right now. And then interesting, the Odette. If I'm not mistaken, DEUS VULT was the team that pulled out the Odette. So again, they try to that diversity.
Karena kalau ke Kalimantan Utaranya, Kaltara itu kan daerah baru ya, Kalimantan Utara ya.
Still hasn't picked their mage,
tapi kan kalau
itu
kan lebih dekat ke Kalimantan Timur.
An epic mage battle on who's going to get the better pick here. And I think right now Navaria is still open. So DEUS VULT can either opt to ban it.
Nggak jauh beda lah dengan Kalimantan Utara.
Navaria is still open.
Arah ke Sabahnya sana pasti banyak kelapa sawit. Lagian pernah juga tonton di TikTok, orang-orang pekerja sawit di Malaysia itu mereka videoin masukin TikTok itu apa namanya proses panen gitu kan.
You really have to think about what you are going to put, even in the mid lane, right? I mean, for the most part, you try to opt for some of that burst if you can, because if you can actually get that times journey out early, then that gives you a huge advantage when it comes to the team fights or even early skirmishes, you know. So that might be something that Homebois really wants to opt for. And we've seen a lot so far of Nana coming through, and that can work. Like you mentioned, Novaria is open because if you're really on point, there it is. There's Novaria. It's going to be locked in. Because what I was going to say is when you're really on point, able to just kind of whittle down the team, it already puts more pressure on utilizing that times journey. Not saying to trigger it right away, but to the point where it's like, all right, we approach this objective fight or this turret push. We're whittled down to half health because of Novaria across from us, and we have to deal with this. Interesting pick here. The Vexana comes through.
I think the reason they picked Vexanas here is that we can kind of see what Homebois is going with right here. They're all about getting in, getting out as quick as possible. You got the Claude, you got the Lance, and the Guinevere. So I like that. They needed a little bit of solid CC on the side of DEUS VULT, and Vexana brings quite a bit of control to some of the team fights, and it could be an interrupt for some of the quick in and out tactic that we see Homebois taking approach. But I think Homebois is quite squishy. So they're going to need something front lane focus right here to take on DEUS VULT, because you can already see they got the CC, they got the Brats, they got the Diggy. Like you're going to have to fight through a lot.
Dude, the thing that scares me about this is the fact that if you just look at DEUS VULT, like their lineup, and then you factor in the ultimate, the Eternal Guard of Vexana. And then you have like this big giant dinosaur as well in Barrett's. Like it's kind of, it seems like there's so much to work through if you're Homebois, right? I mean, for the most part. And there's a lot of kind of CC that can be countered with a Diggy pick. So again, if you're Homebois, and they rounded out with a Lapu Lapu. I think this is, both lineups are very interesting here, G. I actually don't, I want to say that I lean more towards DEUS VULT's lineup, and not because I predicted them to win 2-1, right? I actually just like the fact that you have some of this variation, the variations happening from especially early to mid game, like the spike that's going to happen here. I like that, you know, Aurora and Vexana and Nana, like they're part of this mid game meta again, like mid game picks, because it adds a certain dynamic to it. And
Oke, game pertama DEUS VULT versus Homebois, kita saksikan sama-sama guys. Untuk yang belum subscribe, silakan subscribe guys. Thank you udah menonton di channel saya. Terima kasih banyak. Mari kita saksikan sama-sama.
We're going to be jumping into the land of dawn once again. Game number 1 here, second match of the day. DEUS VULT versus Homebois into the playoffs for games of the future. One of the teams has to go home. And it starts here in game number 1, already getting the flicker out from Udil.
Yeah, and kind of just doing maybe some, like, focusing on some win conditions here for both sides, right? Homebois, I like their approach. Like, if they can't CC enough for on the side of DEUS VULT, they can just bring all the aggression that they possibly can to the playing field. And if they're able to capitalize on that and use their aggression to their advantage, I think DEUS VULT could be at a little bit of trouble. But I think, again, DEUS VULT has the safer team comp, right? Like they're thicker, they're just overall, you know, harder to kill. And they have the anti-CC, so I think DEUS VULT has the better team fight, but I think Homebois has the better advantage to control the map. Oh, yeah. So I think I'm solo right now, Naisu. I don't think you're on here, by the way. Yeah. Kind of just talking about what's going on in this game, we can already see that Homebois is able to secure the first blood onto Solo. Huge plays by Homebois at this point. Definitely interesting takes from both sides. And we can kind of see that DEUS VULT's going to clap back. Magistrate able to take out Zorn at this point. And now going to be invading on the side of Homebois.
Whoa,
this is going to take a... Oh my god! What a torn apart memories on a chibi there. Securing the kill.
Siapa tadi dapat turtle pertama guys ya?
Super aggressive.
Wow. All right, I just came back from a journey again, my own time journey. And I come back right to the shot to the face. Good setups there. With that, how they're going to go ahead play around that. 2 kills already for DEUS VULT. Tempo is pretty much what we're going to be talking about. Already flickering out to Udil once again. That Eternal Guard there, going to chase him down, keeping him from going back to base a little bit longer. Still in the bottom lane, though. Look at the focus there. They're going to land the Requiem, and Kid Bomba gets taken down bottom side. A lot of cross-map action play happening.
Yeah, I mean, the aggression from both sides have been great. Does look like DEUS VULT is definitely controlling a little bit more of the map and a little bit of that economic lead as well. Great flicker utilized or bait out by the side of DEUS VULT. Magister controlling the map with this Brats at this point. Again, still 2-2. So, man, what is your take? It looks like they're about to possibly maybe gank the top lane, and I think that is where they need to start targeting.
I think, again, DEUS VULT having this bit of a lead that they have, G, is great. They can work around it. Kills went into the fact, too, that Hiko was able to grab one of those early ones will help him scale up pretty well. I mean, that's what Brody does best. As he already picked up his first big item. You know, he's got the blade. Now the Turtle's just seconds away from spawning here. You're going to see both teams kind of hold off, wait for it, get in position the best they can. Magister there has quite a few stacks as well. Turtle comes up. And we'll see, right? We'll see if the finesse from Chibi can be pulled off here. That's kind of what has to happen. Jump in, going through. Not going to find the connection, though. Turtle's going to go ahead and reset for now, though. Zorn taking some poke damage, though, from Kid Bomba. Goes in. Sabat trying to keep him at base. Still going to be fighting for him. Jumping in. There's the Eternal Guard. Meanwhile, Turtle's still going to be worked on as well. Bottom lane gets the action. There's the pop-up. Turtle goes over to Chibi, though. And now still going to be working on it. Magister on the run. Kid Bomba there. Nobody falls, but the objective is secured.
Yeah, but while all of that is going down, look at that top side. The pressure by Hiko there. Oh my god.
Hiko does it again. G.
Oh my god. You know, Hiko's name's almost like Iko, but spelled with an H, and I love it. I love it. The torn apart memory is just decimating Homebois at this point. We can kind of take a look at some items, and I think the biggest pickup that we're seeing is the Blade of Hep there for the side of Hiko is just dominating, and I think that's where the economic lead is coming from. The lane swap's already happening, and I think that's going to be a hard fight for CPAD at this, as well as you can see Sao constantly with a bit of response here by Homebois.
Yeah, and right now, pressure on this bottom side, but good rotations all around for the most part. Hiko now also picking up the Malefic Roar. Hold on, Magister gonna get set up here. Multiple members gonna focus him down. Can't get away just yet. One hit though, and he gets away with sliver of health. What a play. Great job there from Sunset Lover to be there for him.
Yeah, and I that's just the amount of CC that DEUS VULT has. And it's not a lot, but it's enough that allowed Magister to escape. And we can kind of see that is what Homebois is lacking. They have a decent amount of damage, but I think that they have to rely on Zorn, right? Utilizing that Violet Requiem is going to be the make it or break it, and they use that to secure the turtle. So, building upon that, Homebois has to keep that up. Keep the pressure up.
Wow.
Oh my god.
To pot with the damage, Hiko gonna be in trouble. Nice land from Zorn there, able to get the kill under the turret. Another one falling for DEUS VULT. Homebois collapsing back here and now setting themselves up here for this turtle. Sunset Lover and Magister here. Down 2 members though. They're gonna want to stall this out the best they can. Homebois though, just looking for more. Sao gonna fall as well alongside the turret. And Homebois making some decisive maneuvers here currently. Sunset Lover, Magister, still trying to hold it down. Not sure if they actually want to commit to this, just let it go. We'll see if they decide to do that. Homebois still in position. Gonna go ahead and work on that Lith Wanderer as well. Get that if they can. Hiko now part of the support. Look at the positioning. He might look for his own entry point. DEUS VULT, they're going to be going. Sapat goes in, jumps in, right on Sunset Lover. There's the Eternal Guard, though. Turtle taken by Chibi once again. Time Journey has to go through. Sapat is taken down by Hiko, but Zorn will find the Requiem into the spatial migration. Out of there he goes. The 1-for-1 trade still working for it. Zorn on the run. Won't be able to catch him, though. DEUS VULT trying to fight back.
What engages right there? That's probably the longest turtle fight into an initial fight that we've ever seen here. And again, DEUS VULT's still leading though. And I think that comes down to that it seems like Homebois is so aggressive. Look at Zorn here though.
Oh man. Okay. You can. The damage is intense, right? And they gotta kind of keep it in check. Homebois, though, the fact that they were able to even out the gold for the most part with those plays that they just made is great, right? Considering how the early game went, and there was some really good scaling for Hiko. Well, now that's not the case here, G.
No, I mean, and that goes to show that Homebois really have to rely on Zorn. And I think also, not only that Homebois are really utilizing the map to their advantage. It is like a chess play at this point. We are seeing so many of Homebois just patiently waiting in a bush and taking advantage when they can. Now, from the side of DEUS VULT, they have to figure, like, they see that. They're getting caught off guard, left, right, up, down. They got to keep that in check. And I think that comes into play that when the mid game approaches here.
Thank you very much guys yang udah nonton melalui channel saya. Terima kasih terima kasih banyak, dan jangan lupa untuk subscribe guys ya.
So the bursting that Homebois has right now could fall off into the late game. So I think right now DEUS VULT, both teams are 50-50.
So with that, again, hold on, top lane again. Gonna be able to find the knock up here. Kid Bomba gonna be in trouble here. One more hit away, gets the regen though. Can he land a shot? Udiel looking for it, but not gonna be able to connect anything here. Lord's now up though. Both teams gonna be working on it. Eternal Guard coming down, crashing down, gets the flicker. Zorn still on the fight back for Sunset Lover. Meanwhile, DEUS VULT working on this Lord. Sabat goes in, Chibi trying to get the turn. He gets the Lord, takes it from under their noses, and with that, DEUS VULT strikes some kills, but they lose the Lord to Homebois.
Yeah, and one of the key plays to point out there is that Magister tried to utilize the Daytona welcome on to Chibi, but missed. And Chibi was able to dash in and secure the Lord.
Again, Zorn right there. Sunset Lover going to be in trouble now. Kid Bomba once again alongside Magister. Still a couple hits away, couple shots. Net's going to be able to grab it. Still working for it. 2 down. DEUS VULT. Resources for the taking. Lord on the top side. Homebois are looking to make the play.
Yeah, and I mean, there's 2 down on DEUS VULT. Full Lord trying to barreling down. I think Homebois at this point are going to be... This is a good Lord for them. Allows even more breathing room. And the 50-50 now leaning into the favor of Homebois. They're able to utilize this Lord to clean up the map and essentially take out a lot of the towers. And DEUS VULT's going to have a hard time now, right? Because they're not going to have the escapability that Homebois has. And it's just... It's crazy to see that Homebois' aggression. They're just breaking apart DEUS VULT's just tactical plays here, and I think they're taking advantage of the mistakes that DEUS VULT are making.
It's great too because for Homebois, they were able to get this lead that they needed. They have the space to work around with. DEUS VULT, though, they have to be able to find their own pickoffs, right? They have to be able to utilize what they've done so far, and they could be doing it right here. Daytona's a welcome into the wall, into the Eternal Guard. Udil's out of the picture. They get the flicker out from the rest of the team. Still working on it, though. Mid-turret, though, as well. Good BMI on the defensive earlier. Now Time's Journey going to be taken out. Setbot gets the kill on Sallow. He goes for more into the blazing duet. Nets chasing him down. Trying to get the kill. He gets it on Sunset Lover. Still going for more. They have to respect the damage from DEUS VULT, but what a battle here in the mid lane.
Yeah, and like they're about to Kid Bomba in a little bit of trouble.
Still gonna be in trouble. Kid Bomba regens it back, gets the kill, but look at the mid lane. He goes the one to fall. Sabat again is insane on this Lapu Lapu. Takes some damage, eventually goes down. Double for Kid Bomba.
Both teams are just like, it's like a rock'em sock'em robot match at this point. 1 goes down, 2 goes down, 3 goes down, and then they can consistently keep up the battle. And again, I think that's that 50-50 mark, and it's just tenacity on both sides. It could be anybody's game at this point. We are seeing DEUS VULT's kind of coming online now. Their damage is starting to scale up into this mid game, and and just the burst that Homebois brought into the early stage isn't there. We can kind of take a look at some items. We do see Claude. Look at this. Almost has everything built already. So I feel like that's going to be a key factor there. Oh my. The back door.
The back door. They're going for it. This is exactly what I was talking about. The nothing but nets play. But he's also alongside one more as they push into the base. They have to deal with it. DEUS VULT. They can't even commit to this board right now. The pressure's too much. Do they want to fight for this? Sunset Lover picking up the Divine Glade in the midst of the fight. Lord's going to reset though. The pressure already put on. Homebois regrouping here. Still working on it, holding the Lord under the half health mark. 1/4 still going. Setbot's gonna be jumping in. Daytona's welcome into the wall. Will get taken out. Now still gonna be out. Chibi gets the Lord. Oh, it all breaks through. Hiko trying with the Torpar memory. Udil still able to survive. Look at the shots though. The damage from Novaria. Able to get 2 down of DEUS VULT. They lose the Lord as well. They're on the defense once again.
I gotta say, right now, Homebois' retry game is on point, right? It's just Homebois, they're securing a lot of the neutral objectives. Second Lord going into their favor. DEUS VULT has to respond to this, you know. In the beginning, I suspected that DEUS VULT's comp was a little bit better, but it goes to show that Homebois is just bringing that aggression left and right. Lord now barreling down, full HP on the left side. Can they mount up a defense here? I don't think Homebois can take it here, but we'll see.
We'll see. They're going to have to deal with this. Lord making quick work of it, so still holding on the best they can. Right now, Homebois, they'll win for the next wave to push in. They want to get this mid and bottom turret down. Poke damage is going to be there. Still holding it together. Eternal Guard also playing that front side. And right now, DEUS VULT keeping these 2 turrets in the base.
It's good. This is the defense that DEUS VULT needs, and I think they're essentially going back to the drawing board in game at this point. They need to find and take control of the map. The river control is going to be a key factor here. You were saying it earlier, Naisu, is that I think that they really need to get a pick, right? And a key pick as Nets is 2-0 and 4 hasn't been stopped just yet, and I feel like that is the winning factor for Homebois. Now, also, the Bratz is having a hard time getting his stacks. Look at the little dino on the field. He is just so tiny. And I think that's kind of playing into a factor on the DEUS VULT.
Udil memang mantap. Udil memang mantap.
Not having control of the map.
Di Indonesia Udil itu bagus loh. Termasuk player yang dihormati loh.
That's why we were talking about.
Udil tuh pernah juara berapa kali, guys?
The tempo that was going to be set, you know, and
waktu masih di Onic juga dia berapa kali juara. Dulu kan Udil pernah di Onic. Udil dulu mantan Onic. Yang ngebawa
playing very risky here, but we'll be fine. But again, tempo. And like you said, Chibi's been
ini kalau saya nggak salah ya,
so
yang bawa Sans ke Onic itu nggak salah Udil.
This is what we were talking about as well. The roam potential here. He's going to get spotted out with Kimbomba. Not sure if they actually just want to continue to commit. They don't. He's back to safety. All this, the push and pull, 30 seconds away from the Lord.
Yeah, and again, I mean, we can kind of look at Claude full build, Brody missing 1 item, but almost at the damage point. Now, the biggest difference is that we are seeing both have Wind of Nature's already secured, and Homebois controlling the map. Again, I think this is the hardest part that DEUS VULT is fighting against, is that they're trying to take what they can, but if they walk into a bad position, it could make it or break it for them. Homebois are trying to trap them into that, and you can already see here.
Yeah, right now, once again, the fight for the Lord, half health here. Both teams waiting patiently. Chibi on point for the majority of the game. It's going to kind of reset. Nothing just yet. Soft reset for now. Still pulls it out of the pit. DEUS VULT has to be careful how they approach it. Look at the pressure, though, already in the mid lane. Zorn gonna find the knock-up on Kid Bomba. Takes a couple shots. Nets has to back off, though. Sunset Lever on the hunt. Does have the immortality. It's gonna get popped here. They have to fight this out. Still gonna be going. Look at the damage, though. Chibi comes through. Finds the execution. Gets the double on Hiko. Finds more. Still working. Sunset Lever's gonna be down. 3 down so far. Looking for the 4th. Kid Bomba gets the kill. But another member on the run. Still looking Chibi. Finesse. looking for Kid Bomba. One hit away with a shot from Udil. And that will make it for Homebois as they take game one.
Udil Homebois.
Wow. That
Luar
was
biasa,
crazy.
luar biasa,
Yeah,
amazing.
Homebois being able to take game one. DEUS VULT pushed back against the wall there.
Udah gue bilang di
My
awal-awal
God.
pertandingannya.
I
Kalau lihat
again,
dari draft
Rock'em
picknya,
Sock'em
hero
Robot
yang
match.
dipilih,
You didn't know who was hitting who.
kemungkinan besar Homebois menang kalau lihat. dari-
Rock'em Sock'em Robots, whatever you want to call it, man. That was an ending, G. That was an ending to game one, man. That was finesse.
It was the
That
most
was
intense.
Ini pasti seru.
Most intense for sure. You never, again, it was like 50-50 for both sides. You never knew. You can kind of see DEUS VULT. They're in their chairs and they're like, man, what a game. And again, DEUS VULT, they were trying to hold their own, but the retries just weren't there. And then Homebois bring in an aggression that I don't think I've seen in this tournament.
My goodness.
He's like,
that ending was great, man.
Sweating.
Yeah, not only that, but like the retries were on point. But I love the call that they had there at the end. You know, and as we take a look at the highlights here for this game, you're going to see exactly what we were talking about. That was already 7 minutes in, but tempo-wise, you know, it was very back and forth early on. But Homebois just did a great job at punishing Hiko, who was scaling really well early on with the Brody. And then it turned into a lot of this just the Rock'em Sock'em Robots, man. Like, that's what it was.
I'm telling you, they were both punching KO punches left and right. And I think DEUS VULT might have had a little bit of tunnel vision, right? Because they were winning in the early, the gold lane already securing the tower within like the very first couple minutes of the match. And then they swapped lanes and Homebois just took advantage of that, and they left the breathing room when we seen Magister make the mistake and missing the Daytona's welcome onto the Lancelot, and I think the Lance just came into play, right? It was just a huge play. Bratz wasn't able to do anything. DEUS VULT lacking a lot of CC, right? They didn't have any control besides Sunset Lever, and I think that it just fell into the hands of Homebois, and their aggression was on point. It kind of seemed like everybody was kind of split apart. Fights happening on the left when the Lord was supposed to be the major objective, and Homebois coming out on top.
Yeah, again, you can see them really celebrate that win because that ending was just all around. You know, every single lane that you saw there, every corner covered, nets. Man, this is what I'm used to seeing, like, from Nets, so especially on a Claude pick, right? Like, you saw it early on. It wasn't a game-winning push, but the pressure that he puts on the sidelines, especially if he's a Claude, it's either Claude or Bruno for him. It's dangerous, G, you know, and that's kind of what we saw here. And if it wasn't controlled, then that could have actually been a game-winning push before we even got to that amazing ending here.
Yeah, and that was the wild part is Homebois. They, again, I think what really came to be a major factor here is that they were forcing DEUS VULT to make decisions, right? And then those decisions were becoming mistakes by DEUS VULT, and Homebois just taking major advantage of those. And I think it just comes down to the versatility that Homebois brought to the field. You know, like the two push up there at the top lane almost could have been a backdoor, forcing DEUS VULT to make that decision that they had to leave the Lord, leave the neutral objective. And we're kind of looking at some of these stats here. We can see that again. Brody, just the turret damage, the one that was putting on a lot of pressure. Can't give up on Kid Bomba though. Like, he was applying a decent amount of pressure to Homebois as well. But I think that's what Homebois wanted. They were kind of keeping him at bay while Homebois were taking advantage in different areas of the landed on there.
Yeah, and it's crazy too, because when we were talking about in the draft, like, even the Diggy pick, like the Diggy pick, very signature for Sao, but he struggled on it, you know, like he struggled kind of like what we saw from the first series of the day with Morrow on the first time on the Ruby, right? Like, it was tough for him to do what he needed to do with the Diggy pick. And a lot of the times when we were talking about how to play into that, I think the the fact that it was solved where a lot of times they were able to put the pressure from, Homebois was able to put the pressure. They got, if it was an early times journey, they were able to get it out early, deal with it. We saw how well still Novaria fits into this current meta that we're seeing kind of shift a little bit, right? Like the damage is crazy still. I mean, not only that, but the vision to play around that is very great for this. And also, you gotta have respect for Chibi because the Lancelot is not. I mean, it's not one of those heroes that a lot of teams want to play in the way things are currently. Like there are specific players that still like to go with that Lancelot pick. And it takes that certain type of player to really pull it off. And to even be patient enough to play against, some of these tankier junglers, if you will, or the way that they play around that, and just wait patiently. Like, you are technically, a lot squishier than a lot of these other picks, these utility picks. So you have to really rely on that skill, that control that you have, and the finesse that it takes to pull some of these heroes off, like when you're playing this, and the fact that he was on point with the retributions, he was able to put pressure that way alongside the team. Like that's the thing, when you pick something like a Lancelot, you pick something even like a Fanny or one of these assassin type junglers, even in the days when you still see Lancelots built tanks a lot, man, like it takes the team effort to make it shine. And then, even then, like you have that team effort, it's still that like clutch in that individual player. And I'm sure you guys watching, or even UG, you're thinking like some of the best Lancelot players that there's that small ingredient, which is the clutch, that they're able to pull things off. And a lot of the times it's like, if you played Lancelot yourself, man, you're playing it in your RG games and you pull off that clutch retribution, or you're able to pull that situation out, that's really rewarding, and it speaks here. Now they're one game into this best of 3. They had I wouldn't even say it was completely like one-sided, right? DEUS VULT had a great start technically, and it was very action-packed. I love these type of matches, man. Like I love the teams that just, it's very action-packed, and that's why I love teams like even watching over in Malaysia. Like this is how they like to play. What you were asking me earlier, like what do you see from this region, or what do you see from this team? And I know you see something different even in NACT, like where there is similar action-packed games, but when you see a certain level of preciseness to some of the actions that they're pulling off is really what sticks out if you've been watching a ton of competitive MLBB. And I think Homebois did a great job here, really playing around the whole thing that they had that in game 1.
100%. I couldn't have said it better myself, Naisu. The clutch was amazing, and I think it just overall they seen the Diggy, right? The Diggy was like, they were like, instead of playing into the Diggy, they played against the Diggy. They essentially just went full gung-ho. And
di Malaysia banyak juga ya
they go gung-ho,
komunitas
they showed it in the match
Legend ya, banyak ya pasti ya.
They never let up. They applied that pressure onto DEUS VULT, and then like you were saying, there was just constant battles left, right, and it just didn't. Again, I personally think what Homebois
PUBG kah, Mobile Legend kah,
was just forcing
Free Fire
DEUS
kah,
VULT to make
Valorant kah,
and to make mistakes so that the Lancelot could clutch it out. And again, I think it came down to also the positioning by Homebois. It was so well executed. The patience behind CPAT and the patience by Zorn was just insane. And forcing out the Diggy, the time journey early, so that they had the ability to continue the fights without having to worry about the extra shielding that Saul would have brought to the team fight. It was just amazing. I mean, I couldn't. Again, being from the NACT, you normally don't get to see the 50-50 matches. They're normally one-sided,
one-sided.
And the North American side of things. So being able to see two teams just be able to like take a blow, give a blow, take a blow, and it was amazing to see.
Maybe that'll maybe that'll continue to develop, even in your region over there, NACT. I think that's something that you can expect, because even looking at, like we were talking about, DEUS VULT, man, like they when you look at game one, and that's in these tournaments, like I said, someone always has to go home, but eventually, like when you're left with that best of 3, sometimes game one's not your game, you know, like it's not it, and that's why I'm still hoping that we get to a game 3, right? But based off what we saw in game 1, I think that's still a very big possibility, because what I'm expecting from DEUS VULT is that adjustment, of course, you know, the adjustment that they want here. I think the Diggy pick was great because it's such a comfort type pick, it's such a signature pick, but it just did not work in this situation. And I think, you know, you see kind of things unfold from lane to lane, and that's where I would have picked out here. Like Sal wasn't able to do what he needed to do on the Diggy pick specifically. And when that happens, when you are on a hero like Diggy and you kind of get shut down, it's really difficult to crawl back to I'm an impactful situation for the team, right? Because you just get deleted. I mean, that's one of the things about Diggy, like you get deleted so fast no matter what, you know, like that's why you have the times journey as well. So I feel like for DEUS VULT here, especially when we're waiting for game 2's draft, they could, in a way, I'm expecting, like, let's say, you know, flipping of sides or anything really, but draft wise, it's like, even if they took the CC again, like they had that available to them, I still think Kid Bomba did a relatively good job, you know, and working around it. Like even for a lot of the skirmishes that they have, Hiko, man, like Hiko on the Brody was actually impressive early on, and he did what he had to do. But eventually you get to the point where, like, Brody, especially with the Diggy, and you kind of get left to fend for yourself in some ways. And I think that's why Brody's great, because you're working with that range aspect, you know, you're just trying to get the marks off and then the torn apart memory, and I think that's great. But you're also fighting against range, right? Like that's why Novario was so great, because you're fighting range to range in a way, and against vision. And so if you're DEUS VULT, when you're prepping up for this game 2, I think draft-wise, you really want to approach it in some of the similar picks that you had, but round it out a little bit more and have a little bit more, I feel like, durability to your lineup. I think that's one of the things I would take from this, especially with the way that Homebois likes to play. Like this already, and this is a team, like I said, they played against each other back and even in the M5, so it's like, you kind of have this notion, you have this notion of how they want to play, so it's like, you know, make those adjustments. I think DEUS VULT can do it. That's more utility, go a little more durability. But hey, they might just want to come out swinging again and hope that they win the swinging match this time, you know? So we are going to see, as we jump in here for draft for game number 2, Homebois flipping sides, DEUS VULT here will be on the red. So Minotaur already taken out here. Gee, what are you thinking here? Since it's DEUS VULT, I mean, Homebois already got that game 1. Like, what do you see them that they need to change up here?
Yeah, and I feel like they just need to break the momentum that Homebois has, right? Like when they get a roll, like the roll is strong. So I think DEUS VULT has to come back to it, just take a step back, think about more controlling heroes. Really didn't have much CC on the side of DEUS VULT, and Homebois took advantage of that. And picking the Diggy early on, I think, was a little bit of a problematic, because then that just allowed Homebois to go full damage instead of CC. Like they didn't even care about the Diggy at that point. So I think it's all about when you're picking these certain heroes and what you want to go with. But I do think DEUS VULT need a little bit more control, kind of like how Homebois brought to the field. I mean, it was just a good read by Homebois, a good response by Homebois in that first match. But this is now match point, right? Now DEUS VULT has to sit down and think about that.
It's like, is this the point where if you're DEUS VULT, you pull out something a little risky, you know, a little risque. Like that's what I'm thinking. Like, do you go that route because match point, man? And you know that I mean, Homebois is the same way. That's kind of the scary thing about it. You know, they've done that before in the past too. But I think if you're DEUS VULT, since we're talking about how they can stay in the series and get it to a game 3, it's like, again, you want to be able to match up with Chibi. You want to be able to not let nets do what he did the previous game. If that means even taking the Claude from him, then maybe take it. Maybe take the Bruno. We saw that matchup so much, man, in M5. Where it was like Bruno Claude, Bruno Brody, Bruno this, you know. We saw that often. So it's like, I think you need to, for Hiko anyway, again, did pretty good on the Brody, but I think you really want to allow Hiko to have a comfortable kind of transition from that early to mid game, and that might just mean take that pick, take that Bruno, take that Claude, if you will, and then build around that. Right now, Homebois is going to be that first pick. This will tell a lot of kind of the tempo that they want to set. Right, and the fact too that we see a lot open here that we've seen picked up or banned out from the group stages even. I'm not sure if Homebois actually wants to lock in CC that has been picked up quite a bit, if they want to go that route, but we'll see.
Yeah, and one thing I do see that is open is the Guinevere, right? Homebois executed the Guinevere so well.
Yeah.
Do they opt to pick that up once again as the first pick, right? And they do. I had a feeling that this was the case. DEUS VULT actually utilized the Guinevere quite a bit throughout a lot of their other series, and it was one of the decision factors on their wins. So it's kind of like, instead of banning it, let's take it because we can also utilize it too. So good response. I want to see what DEUS VULT's gonna do to fix that, and I think that's kind of what they initially suspected the Diggy play would have done, is to counter the Guinevere, but I think Homebois' positioning was just amazing. They came to fight and they fought, and these two picks, I think, the CC.
There it is.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. It definitely wasn't bad in the last game.
Yeah, it wasn't, right? I mean, if it's open, you accomplish what you wanted to do in terms of Kid Bomba individually, and I think you might as well pick it up. And then you also now have the Valentina. This kind of, again, it allows you to, this is by the way also like a great pick for Sunset Lover in general, because he had great performances on this even last year. So with that, it's like you kind of force Homebois in this situation. This is why I always like Valentina, because it forces your opposing team to really depend on what ultimates do we want to give up? Like, what ultimates are we okay giving to the Valentina? And you'll see some teams that actually play around that to the point where they draft, and then when they're actually in the game, they purposely keep those ultimates away with positioning, right, to the Valentina. Like, they make it very difficult to get there. And interestingly enough, from Homebois, we're going to see Harith, who is banned out constantly, by the way. And then, of course, we have the Aurora popping up.
That, I was thinking about it during the first ban phase.
There's a whole lot of magic damage, by the way.
It is a whole lot of magic damage. But I think sometimes it could be the key. It could be the key, right? Because the Claude's still open, right? Maybe the Bruno pick was to, maybe force out the Claude. Again, Homebois looking like they're going for a little bit of a squishier approach again, but from the side of DEUS VULT, we still don't see CC. We still don't see control, and I think that's something we need to see from them. Homebois looking to just be so aggressive. They're ready to, again, I like the Aurora, and it gives you that control. They've already have 2 crowd controls right there. You got the Guinevere, the Requiem, you got the Glacier, and then you're also going to have the sustainability behind the Harith, right? And sometimes that can force teams to build anti-magic and leave open these other 2 physical heroes. So I kind of want to see what Homebois picks in their jungle, and if what the EXP lane could possibly be. We do see some bans coming out. Getting rid of the Thamus could be a good frontal aspect for Homebois, and could be a pain for the CC to fight. And I think that's ultimately why they banned that. And then the Tigreal, I like it. I like the ban.
I like it. Every time I see the Tigreal now, I just think of the KDA machine, man. The 5-man set, like that, now that I see that, and I was watching that, like, it's worth it to take out the Tigreal. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, you see some amazing set potentials, obviously, with it, even if it's not a 5-man set. Like, it's still a very big threat. And I'm also kind of wondering exactly what do we see Homebois do with these first 3 picks that they have, because yeah, it's a lot of magic damage, that's true, and you want to kind of even this damage distribution out, so you kind of, that leads you to the table of, yeah, what do we pick up for that, right? How do we deal with that? And I think DEUS VULT, on the other hand, they're thinking that too. They're focusing on some of those XP picks that could have popped up. Lapu Lapu has been shining for months now, you know, like in XP lane, a very playmaker heavy hero. Now that that's taken out, the Thamus was taken out as well. You know, what do we see possibly going in the XP lane?
Yeah, I mean, right now the possibilities could be like Yuzong. We could see a Black Dragon come out. I feel like that would be a good possibility. That's the dive you need to be able to take out of Bruno. Getting into that backline, CC in that.
How you feel about Arlot XP?
Arlot XP. That is also something that's been quite wild too, right? Nice too, is that we haven't seen Arlot at all, and the whole time we've been casting. So
yeah, I mean, he's been banned out a couple. I think he's been banned out once or twice today so far.
He was banned out all in the first series. That is correct. That is true. So that's why we didn't see him there, but we're not seeing him here. So Arlot could be that. The final slash is what I think DEUS VULT would definitely need to utilize. That's some solid CC.
Yeah.
Huh.
Interesting. Okay. They're gonna pick that up.
It's a good counter.
Get it. Yep.
It's a good counter to the Harris like sustainability, right? You know that.
Yeah. It's a smart choice.
Heal.
I mean, for all 3 of those, like technically, even for the Guinevere, in essence, like depending on the build path and whatnot, like it's a smart pick from DEUS VULT. I like the Baksha. We talked about it too. You know, they need a little bit of that durability, so they're going to have that available to them. And realistically, like I said, you really want to just allow Hiko to farm up, like be the turret destroyer here on this Bruno. Focus on opening up the map for your team to work with, which works great for a Baksha, right? Opening up the map for him. There's the Benedetta locked in. So if, you know, we're talking about physical damage, this is some physical damage. And they pair it up with an Edith. Wow, it's been a while.
That's a lot of magic damage. Maybe they're relying on the Benedetta's physical. That is crazy.
It's a lot, but it's
maybe it's much for DEUS VULT. Angela, okay. What is this game? Now you see, you asked for some wild, risky play. Risky. Gotta give it with some emphasis, you know, like some head smack.
There you go.
Agak apa gitu.
I think it is going to be risky though.
It works. I think as long, like, I'm a firm believer at this point, and not just because we saw Layla recently. Like, I'm a firm believer in these teams can make anything work to a degree, right? Now, again, a lot of this is going to be decided in the early game, like tempo-wise. And I think too, if you're talking about like Baksha, that's one of the great things about Baksha is like your tempo alone in terms of your rotation speed, being where you need to be. If you can get those calls on these side lanes, putting pressure, maybe it's even in the mid lane, get the passives down or the sustainability down with his passive. Like Baksha's a great pick. But you really want to be able to set the tempo yourself if you're DEUS VULT here. And I think based on what we saw from game 1, the work's going to be cut out for them. But if they can deal with all this early magic damage, we'll see how it goes. We're jumping into the Land of Dawn. Game number 2 here. Match point. Once again, Homebois against DEUS VULT. One of these teams will be going home today. Can DEUS VULT extend the series to game number 3, holding on to the tournament lives as they get us situated?
I'm a little confused because it's already starting out at 60 seconds 2-0.
Yeah, that's...
Wow, it looks like Solo and maybe Sunset Lever in the intro died. And Homebois took advantage of that. I guess that could be the early aggressions between the Aurora and the Edith combo. That's something you don't see very often.
Because the Petrify was down too. So
yeah,
you know, as I was waiting to load in, action happened, man. So, you know, the Petrify was utilized, Sapad gets that kill, it goes to Udil. This is scary, like if you're DEUS VULT, man, because kills in that department on those heroes is deadly. And with that, they're going to go ahead and put a little bit of pressure here in the mid lane. Zorn, though, quite tanking himself. There's the knock-up. Into the Requiem they go. Magister are going to be in trouble. He can't even play. Gets taken out of the picture. CC upon CC.
And again, I think that just builds onto what I was talking about in the draft, is that DEUS VULT's kind of lacking that CC at this point. I think it's kind of the... What does Sunset Lover steal with the Valentina, right? Like the big things that they have available are going to be, you know, the Frigid Glacier, I mean, the Violet Requiem, but look at this damage, my god.
Yeah, you got to be able to respect damage this early on. This is kind of what we were talking about with the overloaded magic damage potential early game. It's so far quite deadly, and that's the best start that they could have had so far. Turtle's still going to go through these resets. Sunset Lever holding on to this ultimate for now. With that Edith there, still Kid Boma going to be the focus, using the Vengeance already, still wants to fight it out. Jumping in with the Electro final blow, looking for the target, goes in, Setbot's going to fall, now Chibi's going to be the next one, still battling it out, now clapping back here, DEUS VULT, looking for a couple kills themselves. Kid Boma going to be the one to fall in now, Udil in trouble. So there's some bite back here, now body after body going to fall, DEUS VULT looking to take the objective though.
I just want to say, if I'm not mistaken, I heard the crowd go absolutely wild there.
Bisa dicuri.
Oh, what?
Bisa dicuri guys turtle.
How did he
Bisa dicuri sama Benedetta.
Yo, I'm speechless. The turtle stolen by Homebois CPAT. That is, there's just,
Dicuri ya.
What? Magister, what happened? Where'd your retry go?
Retrinya nggak digunakan ya.
Maybe, you know, he just wasn't expecting it. I don't know, but that's a play right there for Homebois. Now, given that whole sequence, how that kind of unfolded, right? DEUS VULT showing that they definitely have fight in them early on. Still, once again, they have to deal with the early damage potential, magic damage. You can already see, too, big items being picked up here. They got the Starlium Scythe already on nets. He's got that available to him. You pair it up the fact that Udil picked up the Genius Wand. So it's a little troublesome in terms of now we even have to deal with more burst or more, you know, our magic resistance being reduced in some of these team fights. And so they really got to be careful how they play around. Master there, he gets the Heart Guard, still been working on it. There's the Glacier. Udil going to be the one in trouble though. Sapad on the backside goes in with a collectible final blow. Going to be able to find Magister. He's on the fall. Sawo as well. DEUS VULT biting off a little too much there.
Nggak biasa pakai.
That again, I think DEUS VULT, that letting that escape with 1 HP will just nasty, right? They have to watch out for that. Kind of taking a look at some of the items. When you see the Hawes Claws being picked up by the Bruno at this point, I think that the sustainability that they need, CC picking up the brute force early on. It doesn't seem like they're too worried about magic damage yet, as well as, you know, boots haven't been completed yet, but the pressure.
Ego gonna be in trouble. That's the power of this Harith pick and why we see it banned out so often. Also an early Starlium Scythe locked in on the item. Sal gonna be in trouble now. 3 members here on the top side. Can't get out of it. Magister a little bit too late. Udil here as well. Sunset Lover and Magister trying to hold down the turret. Turtle now up though. Homebois furthering the gold lead, nearly at 4,000 ahead here against DEUS VULT.
Yeah, and it looks like we're going to be getting into the next turtle here. DEUS VULT really need to stop this snowball that's happening by Homebois.
So they're going to be trying to, Udil going to be in trouble, has the passive available though, but won't be able to get out as he falls. Hiko picks up the kill. DEUS VULT now eyes on this turtle. Chibi trying to keep up that front side. Sapad as well, trying to own them out. Do they want to give this up? Do they want to fight for it? Chibi still going. Magister going to get zoned out a little bit. Onward, not going to be able to connect. Chibi gets the turtle. Flicker comes through. Gets out of there. So right now, Homebois happy with the objective. Chibi going to jump in into the Lecto final blow. They go under the turret. Sepot still alive. alive. They find Kid Bomba in the brush.
Cepat ya.
This is just speechless right now. Homeboys executing everything perfectly, and we can already see another clash.
Oh, Hiko can't withstand the damage. The Glacier gonna come down, won't be able to find Sunset Lover. Meanwhile, Magister now trying to get away from this, gets the hard guard. Still gonna be going. Chibi jumps in, stops him from going, but they're not gonna get more. So Pot with a big item pickup here as well.
Yeah, and I mean, it looks like Homeboys going to take possibly this mid turret. They're zoning them out. Homeboys have to keep this snowball up.
Oh, this could be. They still get the turret. They're going to be happy with that. Chibi still wants to be able to fight, though. Sunset Lover! The damage is too much to deal with. Now Sapat here against Magister. Does he want to go for the kill? Going to jump in. Still goes for it. Has to use the retry to get away. Will be fine. Homeboys, though, pushing on the gas here.
I mean, they are definitely pushing DEUS VULT against the wall. DEUS VULT at this point really need to kind of step back, and I don't know what could possibly be stopping them from missing the retry. But Kid Bomba!
Even with the vengeance, it doesn't matter, G.
It does.
Chibi still wants more. Magister the target. The rest of the team going to try to help him out. Hard guard could come through. Still going to be fighting. There's the Glacier coming down, even with it all. He will be fine. The fight for the resources, though, TB knows it. They already got the hard guard dealt with. Still going to be putting the pressure once again on this side of the map of DEUS VULT. Divine Glaive as well, picked up for Udil. If there wasn't enough magic damage, it's even more deadly now.
It is, and they're already zoning out for the first Lord. Homeboys controlling a bit of the map. Oh my god, CPAT into the top lane, taking out Heiko.
Still going to be going. Once again, Magister, the flicker from Zorn. Looking for more, though. The pressure is there. Now Sunset Lover going to be the one in trouble. 3 members are gone. Make it 4 for DEUS VULT. It's only Sao. This is dire for DEUS VULT as Homeboys now makes the way for the Lord. First one of the game, and Sapat will continue to push the top side.
You said risky, we got risky. Not only did we get risky, we got major aggression by Homeboys. The snowball effect is engaged. And we can see DEUS VULT, they need to find a response. They keep going in and testing Homeboys. And they're, again, I think it's going to come back to that they're going to have to mount up a great defense. They do have the ability to do that, right? Kid Bomba, though, being farmed up alongside Magister. Mid-game coming in, we could see a little bit of a scaling happening by DEUS VULT as they are securing a bit of the magic resistance that they need against this magic-heavy team that Homeboys has. Lord kind of rumbling down in the land of Dawn. How is DEUS VULT going to respond to such an aggressive attack?
Tough for them to deal with. Look at the backside. Sapat gonna jump in. Got a little aggressive there. Ends up falling. 1 versus 3. Was trying to just put the pressure. Still, Lord going to be making its way top side. Right now, DEUS VULT. Full force, 5-man. Going to try to defend this. Still, does Homeboys actually want to continue to press this situation here? It looks like they won't. Again, even though Sapat went down, they still got a little more space to work with around the map based off that first Lord push. But ultimately not able to get any more damage on these base turrets.
I like this, right? Homeboys not forgetting that they didn't get the tunnel vision. This is what we see from a lot of teams, is that when that first Lord is secured, and again, I mean, CPAT had a little bit of tunnel vision there and did go a little bit too deep and paid for it. But again, the whole team didn't get tunnel vision. We do see a little bit of a resource fight here. All of DEUS VULT here.
Gonna use that like the final blow once against the pot. Trying to focus down Sunset Level. We'll be able to get him. Eco falls as well. 2 down for DEUS VULT. Still gonna be fighting Magister. Trying to get out from Nets. Still alive though. Quite tanky himself. Kid Bomba, the next target. 3 members of DEUS VULT hold on the force from Homeboys. Knocking on the base now. Mid turret going to be the focus. It falls. Now the top side, the focus for Homeboys. will eventually get this as well. DEUS VULT, couple more seconds. Their full team will be back here. But Lord up in 30. What can DEUS VULT do here, G? They're almost 9,000 behind.
I mean, I think they've just been making mistake after mistake, kind of leaving the comfort of their base is what Homebois wanted, and they just fell right into their grasp. Right now, I mean, if they could possibly get an easy pick, that might be where it's at, but it's the snowball effect on Homebois is just a little bit too much. I think if they attempt to engage for this Lord, they might pay for it, and I think that DEUS VULT needs to stay passive, but again, they're being a little risky, and this might be the only chance that they have for this Lord, as it is going to be the second one. So I think it's reached its enhance point. They waited they made it past that 12-minute mark, and DEUS VULT's definitely opting to stay back at the base again. I think the only thing they can do at this point is turtle up, hope for a decent play, maybe Sunset Lever able to get the Frigid Glacier from Udall here, and that might be it. That might allow them to stop a huge push, but I think that's about the only thing they can grasp for at this point.
Man, and with that, again, we've seen this so far, even in the previous series, right? When you're down this much gold, it gets very tough, right? For a team that's down nearly 10,000 gold at this point. Kind of at the whims, once again, of the set potential from Homebois. So DEUS VULT, how do they pull this through? Once again, lanes are synced. Lord in the mid, still going to be... Hard guard's going to be there to find the connection to the backside. Battlestorm's going to get taken down easily, though. Seth on the backside finds Hiko, takes him out of the picture, and they are going to do it just like that. Homebois takes the entire team out. It's a wipeout. It's a triple for Nets, and they'll take this series in a sweep. They send DEUS VULT out of the tournament here, 2-0.
Wow. Homebois showing complete aggression and complete control over that whole game. We've seen it was a 50-50 in the first round. Congrats to Homebois, because they showed that they brought the tenacity. And, I mean, DEUS VULT
congratulations Malaysia.
Homebois seemed like they wanted it a little bit more.
Congratulations Malaysia.
Man, Homebois, they're super clean. You know,
I mean, speechless.
Yeah, it's a very clean performance, like from game 1 to game 2, just like we saw, you know, in the previous series, man. So it's very incredible to see that kind of improvement, if you will, in their play style. And of course, you know, for DEUS VULT, they're not going to be happy about that. It was very tough to have that kind of loss here. Of course, you know, even on the stage, and they're here in very familiar territory, and it's tough to see that, because really when you talk about this matchup, the fact that they played against each other in M5, you know, and how that was, it's tough to see, like, where did it go wrong here for DEUS VULT in these games. And I'm sure if you go back and watch, and a lot of you guys currently were watching that game, it's like, you know, what do you take from this? As we take a look at the highlights here, the fact that this lineup is a very unique lineup from Homebois, by the way. Like, this is not something that you would see every game. It's one of those, like, I would say almost a niche lineup where it's like, it's very magic damage department heavy. And not only that, but you're thinking, we're just going for all the damage. We also pick up the Benedetta, and like we throw that physical damage dealer in there, and it makes for some crazy burst potential early on.
And it was just, I think, well executed by Homebois, you know. And I think DEUS VULT, I'm not quite sure what they wanted to achieve. They pulled out the Baxia Angela combo to hope to sustain against a heavy comp as Homebois, and they even confidently picked the Angela, but Homebois just taking advantage of everything. Their damage was way too much. They had a lot of crowd control for DEUS VULT to deal with, and then not not only that, it was just well executed by the whole team. They kept forcing DEUS VULT out, and DEUS VULT just fell into Homebois' hands. And again, it was just the clutch moments by the whole team. Homebois they just kept collapsing down on the DEUS VULT. And they were trying to find responses left and right, even with this final Lord push. If I'm not mistaken, I think I seen a Frigid Glacier stolen by Sunset Lover, but they just, again, you can see a little bit of that overextend to try to keep the Lord away from the base. It just wasn't enough as Homebois were snowballing at such a heavy level. And again, it was a crazy match. I think it was risky on Homebois' side, but it played to their advantage. And most of the times, most of the plays, we started off at the very beginning through a cutscene, already 2-0. Like the aggression by Homebois was crazy. This was, like you were stating, it was like a revenge match for what happened in M5. And man, once again, Nets.
Once again, 8-0-6, man. And when he picked up that early Starlium Scythe, like he was gonna be deadly. And I love that interaction. I always like when teams do this, when they go with kind of like this magic-centric early damage lineup. Usually you have some concept of Starlium Scythe is going to be picked up by one, the Genius One is going to be picked up by the other, and then you're really like trying to, win these early skirmishes that way, like pumping out the magic damage early on, because even if a team tries to build some magic resistance early on, it's usually, reduced, obviously. So with that whole interaction, and then the Harith, who we've seen banned out quite a bit, like there's a reason for that, right? I mean, it was deadly, and that's kind of what we saw here. So again, congratulations to Nets, once again getting an MVP performance, and just overall, I love what Homebois did. So congratulations to this lineup specifically on a very interesting kind of approach to that game.
Yeah, I think it just ultimately goes to show that the versatility of these teams can be anything. I mean, Benedetta coming into the game, even paired with an Edith, right? Like, I think that this tournament, again, I said it earlier, it's building the foundation of how crazy MLBB is going to be getting with the current meta. Like, it's not as easy to anticipate drafts anymore. And it goes, again, they were just 50-50 in the very first round, but it was crazy that coming into the second round, I think it was just the momentum Homebois built into that first round, and then securing the win against someone like DEUS VULT that made it to the 4th place spot in M5 versus Homebois, getting knocked out a little bit earlier. It's that bittersweetness that they're like, we finally came back, Malaysia, we're here to do it.
And I think that's what it's going to take. I believe based on the brackets, they are going to be facing Homebois will have to face tomorrow. So, they something like this, like that kind of strategy, that kind of lineup, and obviously, like it's probably been played before and whatnot, that interaction. But regardless of if it was picked up or not from other teams, the execution factor here is also what we're highlighting, like from Homebois. Like it was very well orchestrated, the way that they approached this lineup and the way that they made it work for them. And I think that's what's something that even the teams waiting for tomorrow, like they have to be aware of. Again, Homebois like this, that play style, and even the effect, I guess the impact that you can see with having Nets now, a part of this lineup, and kind of that dynamic that he brings. Not everybody can play a Harith, by the way. You know what I mean? Like to a certain degree. Like not everybody can play it like Nets or some of these players that really round out their hero pool when it comes to the gold lane, and it's something that we actually talk about over in the Philippines quite a bit, like some of the dynamic that some of these gold laners have, the XP laners, I mean every role really. So again, it was just a great matchup here. It's crazy. I was expecting really a 3-game series, but we didn't get it.
We were hoping. We
said 2-1, man.
We were proven wrong. I mean, you gotta give it up to Homebois for that, right? It's kind of, you know, bittersweet for DEUS VULT, but
yeah,
again, Homebois they brought that aggression, that passion. You could see that it was the competition, man. It was just overall competition. They didn't let the stage get to them. They were like, we're taking you out of the tournament. This is our time to shine, and it was great to see. I loved you know, I actually was rooting for Homebois back in M5. I actually suspected. I was, you know, not just because they won this time around, you know, but I actually suspected DEUS VULT statistically wise, they seem to be better off than Homebois. But again, just the flick of the switch and Homebois coming out on top.
Well, that's going to wrap it up for me and you today, man. You know, great first and second series with sweeps here. G, it's been a pleasure.